Heartfelt and emotional tributes keep pouring in over the tragic deaths of Rob and Michele Reiner. But the empathy stops at the White House. Here's what you know who is responding to the backlash over his shameful post yesterday. Take a look.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. You know, it was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country.
You know who is bad for the country? I don't know how you were raised, but this man's family is in deep mourning. And what you said and what you've doubled down on make you bad for the country. Yeah. Make you very bad for the country. But that's my opinion, but I see a lot of conservatives are feeling the same way. And I have to say, you know, there's something that we all know, is that when something horrific happens, we come together. We don't delineate because somebody didn't like it. That's not what you do.
Or make it about him. It's about all of a sudden, everything's always about him.
Yeah.
It's nutty, though. I mean, it's, as I said, high-profile conservatives are actually calling out his comments as also bad for the country. Watch.
I think President Trump should have said nothing. I think when the president says these sorts of things, it detracts from his policy achievements and his agenda.
For the President of the United States to take this family tragedy in which both Reiner and his wife were killed and say that it's because of Trump derangement syndrome, I thought was well beneath him and beneath the office, and I think it would have been better if the President had made no comment.
When people say horrible things about Rob right now, I find it, quite frankly, infuriating. And distasteful.
Woods.
Oh,
that was James Woods.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the reaction people ought to have.
Yeah.
You know?
Online, I noticed that there's a lot of, when Charlie Kirk died, et cetera, there was a lot of people saying nasty stuff. But that wasn't the President of the United States, and it was not Rob Reiner himself. Watch the tape of Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Absolute horror. And I, unfortunately, saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems.
That's called grace.
Right.
That is grace.
Right.
And the guy in the White House, he has none of the ability to lead, to set a tone for empathy, for sympathy. I don't know what he's doing there. And Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, all his policies, what policies? What has he done that's been constructive? I'd like to know.
I think what's so disappointing, and we touched on it a little bit yesterday, is that, you know, at a time when you have the nation grieving about a school shooting at Brown University, when you have the nation grieving about an anti-Semitic tragedy in one of our allied countries, when you have a nation grieving about a Hollywood icon being killed, what you expect from the President of the United States is to be the consoler in chief. That's his job. That is the assignment. And he never understands the assignment. I don't think he is capable because of the lack of moral compass that I believe he has. And it just reminds me immediately about who I believe is the best president of my lifetime, President Barack Obama. He understood the assignment. He understood how to console a nation, how to bring a nation together. I remember when he heard about the Sandy Hook shooting, he was in the Oval Office. This is his first reaction, which was to close his eyes. You could see that he felt the grief of those families and of this country. And I was also in South Carolina when he gave the eulogy for the 9 people that were murdered inside of a church, and he sang Amazing Grace. And I think we have that.
Amazing Grace.
He could sing.
How sweet the sound.
And I can't begin to tell you what it felt like in that room to have a leader like that sharing in our grief as a country. And I don't think this president is even capable of it.
Well, and I
Incapable.
think it's important that there has been some pushback on the right. It's not as much as I'd want to see, but I do want to shout those out who've been powerful. Thomas Massey, who we've talked about, put out a beautiful statement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, listen, she seems to have found the light on some of these issues.
She did a 180.
My friend David Urban, who is a Trump advisor, just definitively, no apologies, called it out. And you need that. I don't know how much lower you can go than after a family was murdered. And we're still letting the facts play out. The son is in custody, but that aspect of the story hit me hard because I've talked a lot about my sister was an addict for over a decade. Addiction has touched 2/3 of American families. It is something that is relatable because they can get better and then they can get sick again. And as a parent, as a loved one, as a sibling, there is nothing you want more for that child to get better. And I can't speak, I didn't know the Reiners, but I imagine if they were here today, they would care the most about, they just want their son to get better.
My information on that is that the Reiners did everything possible. You must know this, Whoopi. That kid was in and out of rehab and what have you.
They did everything.
They
They
spent
loved their
millions
son.
of dollars on it, and sometimes you just can't fix it.
Well, and I think the part here that bothers me is it doesn't even matter that Donald Trump is the president. It's what it reflects of humanity. When political identity trumps moral identity and a common ground of acceptance, and we saw this a lot with Charlie Kirk. We saw it with Luigi Mangione and the man he murdered. We're seeing it. When there's a mixed reaction to someone tragically being killed, it doesn't matter if you knew the person, who the person is. It's just a time we're living in where that's the bigger shock to me, is that there's any discrepancy in response that isn't, oh my God, my heart breaks for this family and for these people.
For years to come, and the generations ahead of us, when we're all dead, this stuff is going to be in the Smithsonian for years. Everybody's going to know what he said. All of these tweets should be just his legacy is in the dumpster.
Well, you know what?
He doesn't care, though.
Sorry, Mangione was accused of murder.
Right, okay.
You go with what you're thinking.
Look, there is no justification for him to have written what he wrote. There's no way to justify it. And all of those Republicans who are quiet, damn you all.
You're like
Damn
Johnson.
you all.
Like, what's his name? Johnson.